Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Gumawa po ako ng video presentation for cancer treatment. Ito po ay ang chemotherapy treatment at CAR T-cell treatment na bagong treatment for cancer na mataas ang recovery rate at hydrogen pro-life solution para naman sa activated T-cell for cancer treatment na na-develop ko para sa mabilis na paggaling ng inyong cancer. Sa video pong ito makikita ninyo ang mga pagkakaiba ng mga technology for cancer treatment na makakatulong po sa inyo upang makapili kayo ng gusto nyong treatment kung sakaling magkaroon kayo ng cancer.
Dr. Lorraine Day did something most people have not had the courage to do. When diagnosed with cancer, she decided to heal herself without the aid of the medical community. What makes this story particularly interesting is that she herself is a highly respected orthopedic surgeon. Instead, after 30 years as an agnostic, she turned to belief in an ancient recipe for health from the Old Testament after she learned that the cancer had spread.
For 2 years, I was getting worse and worse and worse, and people say, well, how did you follow your progress? Well, I followed my progress by getting worse and worse and worse. But I still would not go to the conventional doctors because I had seen too many thousands of patients die from the treatment we give them. Chemotherapy is poison. It causes cancer. Every doctor knows that. Radiation, doctors will tell you don't get too many x-rays. X-rays cause cancer. But when you have cancer, then they say, we have to give you huge doses of what we told you to avoid because it causes cancer. Well, it's because doctors don't know how to treat cancer. We're never taught because the pharmaceutical industries control much of what is taught in medical school because they give the majority of funding for research and they only teach surgery and drugs.
Doctor, can we talk about cancer a little bit? Various types out there. What are some of the things that you've seen in terms of your patients and what some of the things that you've been able to do?
A better thing to talk about in relationship to, well, I will talk about that, right? A better thing to talk about, however, is the relationship between profits and cancer in the United States. There was a study that was published, I believe it was in 1994. It was a 12-year program, 12-year study. They looked at adults who had developed cancer as an adult, not childhood cancer, but adult cancer, right? And this is the main types of cancer that we get here in the United States. They did a meta-analysis of these people all around the world who developed cancer as adults for 12 years and were treated with chemo. And they looked at the results. And they published the results in the Journal of Clinical Oncology. And the results? 97% of the time, chemotherapy does not work. 97% of the time, it doesn't work. So why is it still used? It's one reason and one reason only: money. If you go to a medical doctor, an MD, with a sinus infection, and that doctor prescribes an antibiotic, he gets no financial kickback. Now, if he prescribes 5,000, of that antibiotic in 1 month, the drug company that makes it might send him to Cancun for a conference, right? Mm-hmm. But he gets no direct remuneration. It's not with chemotherapeutic drugs. It's different. Chemotherapeutic drugs are the only classification of drugs that the prescribing doctor gets a direct cut of. So if your doctor prescribes chemotherapy for you, here's how it goes, more or less. The doctor buys it from the pharmaceutical company for $5,000, sells it to the patient for $12,000, insurance pays $9,000, and the doctor pockets the $4,000 difference. And there ought to be a law. The only reason chemotherapy is used is because doctors make money from it. Period. It doesn't work 97% of the time. If Ford Motor Company made an automobile that exploded 97% of the time, would they still be in business? No. This is the tip of the iceberg of the control that the pharmaceutical industry has on us. Most people have no idea of this at all. Now, I wrote a book. It's called The MD Emperor Has No Clothes, right? In my book, I have a bulleted list of 10 questions that every cancer patient should ask their doctor. 10 questions. I've had patients kicked out, literally kicked out of the oncologist's office because the doctor was PO'd that the patient was asking him these questions. And these are just common sense questions. Cancer treatment in the United States, we have lost the war on cancer. We have lost the war on cancer. Why? Because cancer is not a reductionistic phenomenon. Cancer is a holistic phenomenon. And when you try to bring a reductionistic methodology like drugs and surgery to bear on a holistic phenomenon, you will completely miss the boat each and every time. You cannot do it. Medical doctors are like colorblind art critics. They can see that that's a boat. They can see the black and white outline, but they're completely blind to all of the colors and textures that make up the substance of the thing. It's no difference with cancer. The reason that people get cancer in the United States and the reason that we have completely lousy outcomes is because medical doctors are driving the research bus. When women get together and do a 5K run for breast cancer, all of that money, do you think any of that money goes to nutritional research? Do you think any of that money goes to homeopathic research or acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine or naturopathic research? No. All of it goes to drugs and surgery, which do not work. Now, why aren't those women running for selenium? If every girl in this country took 200 micrograms of selenium, in one generation we'd eliminate breast cancer by 82%. That's a big number. Why aren't we doing that? Because medicine in the United States is a for-profit industry, and most people are completely unaware of this, and most people bow down to the altar of MD-directed high-tech medicine at their own demise.
The treatment doctors use for cancer has actually helped it spread. That's the finding of in a brand new study which suggests chemotherapy can help the cancer cells become resistant to treatment. Chemotherapy targets cancer cells, killing them, but according to the article published in Nature Medicine, it also can damage the DNA in healthy cells. That causes them to release a protein, according to this study, and researchers say that can actually help the protein help protect the cancer cells, causing tumors to grow. The study helps explain why some people appear to develop a resistance to chemo. Scientists say it could also lead to better treatments in the future. Let's bring in Dr. Arthur Kaplan. He heads the Division of Medical Ethics at New York University's Langone Medical Center. Chemo helping cancer spread. This goes against everything anyone's ever heard.
It does, but you know, it's not totally a surprise, Shep, because we know that cancers rebound after an initial blast of chemo. And as you just said, this starts to explain why. Something is getting released out of the dying cancer cell that basically is in the normal cells, and it's helping more cancer cells grow. So chemo's complicated. If you will, you take that big shotgun, shoot it at a cancer cell, you're causing a lot of havoc.
Chemo used to be given in larger doses than it is now, generally speaking, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we used to be uncertain. The idea was you're going to blast this whole thing all at once with everything you've got, and that turned out to be worse for the patient. As everyone knows, it's a race between the poison, which is chemo, and you trying to live long enough to benefit from the result. It's crazy, but that's sort of the tool we have.
Breakthrough treatment to fight cancer has federal approval this morning. The FDA support makes CAR T the first approved gene therapy in the United States. It reprograms the body's own immune system to attack a deadly type of blood cancer. CAR T was effective in clinical trials in 83% of children and young adults with leukemia.
12-year-old Emily Whitehead was the first pediatric patient to receive this therapy. 5 years ago, she was dying from cancer, but today she is cancer-free. Researchers hope that this type of therapy could one day be used against multiple diseases. Our Dr. David Agus has been following the testing and approval of the treatment. He leads the USC Westside Cancer Center and joins us from Los Angeles. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gail.
It's very exciting to hear about Emily's story. Help us understand why the medical community is so excited about this. It's being called a new frontier in medicine.
Oh, it's so great to have a positive story this week, and this is really an amazing story. So this is a treatment different than all other treatments in cancer. You take out the immune cells from these children who have end-stage leukemia. You send them to a factory in New Jersey, and what happens is they do gene therapy to put in the gene to target these immune cells back to the leukemia. They send the cells back, they're infused into the child, and 83% of these children that have failed all treatment go into remission. So this is a living therapy.
Now, the treatment's for a very narrow group of patients, so who is eligible initially?
So right now it is children and young adults with ALL, a particular kind of aggressive leukemia that have failed other treatments. But in the pipeline is lymphoma in adults and in children.
David, take us through the cost for this. I want to get this right. This is eye-popping. Almost $500,000, $475,000. That's in line with certain other therapies, but then the payment for this is also unique, right?
No question about it. Is that, today in Fortune magazine, Dana Goldman, an economist at USC, and myself have a piece talking about this. Realize and put the $475,000 in perspective. A transplant, which would be an alternative treatment in these kids, costs $800,000. But what Novartis, the pharmaceutical company, negotiated with the Center for Medicare Services, which is the U.S. government, is that you only have to pay if the child is in remission at 1 month. So you only pay if the drug works. And so actually basing the cost or charge of the drug on value is a whole new innovative way of pricing drugs. So innovative treatment and also innovative payment. Certainly $475,000 is an enormous price. But at the same time, it is different in kids who don't respond and do respond. And when this comes out for different indications, they're going to charge different amounts. So it's actually based on what it saves.
What are the risks?
There are real risks to this, is that you're killing lots of cells at once, and you get what's called a cytokine storm. So it's only being administered right now in 20 centers that are certified and know how to deal with this. That number will expand over the next year. But it is a difficult therapy, but these kids have no other choice. So to them, it is life-saving, as you saw with Emily at the beginning of the story.
Can you use this on other diseases, or is this only for cancer?
Yeah, so you're going to see approvals in the next several months for lymphoma in adults. You also have clinical trials. There are over 50 clinical trials now in different indications. And so these indications range from other kinds of cancer, like solid tumors, to heart disease and others. So it's very exciting that we now have a living drug to treat patients.
Exciting. Thank you very much, Dr. David Agus.
T cells live in the bloodstream. They are the warriors of the immune system and are called on to defend the body from diseases like cancer. But cancer is complex, and oftentimes these warriors get overwhelmed and can't complete the job. That's where T-cell therapy comes in. We remove your T-cells, bring them to the lab, and increase their numbers using sophisticated techniques. In some cases, we can even improve T-cells, enhancing their cancer-killing potential. Then we return them to your body to get to work. Some people receive a therapy that boosts the T-cell's ability to grow and multiply for the fight. After treatment, MD Anderson specialists monitor your response with labs and CT scans. T-cell therapy isn't an alternative to chemotherapy. Some patients may receive chemotherapy in the hospital to help prepare their body. T-cell therapy isn't right for everyone. Talk with your doctor.
If you are suffering from any chronic disease, you must see the doctors and switch to hydrogen-rich water. You should drink 3,000 cc's of hydrogen-rich water each day for 6 months. Meanwhile, you should check your physical examination reports each month. You'll see the difference 6 months later. The examination result speaks for itself. Medicines alleviate your symptoms temporarily. Negative ions strengthen your self-healing power and immunity systems and safeguard your health permanently. Negative ion, a gift from nature. According to scientific research reports, everybody can live a long life, 120 years or longer. In reality, however, few people have lived longer than 100 years.
They claim it's the water. Tens of thousands of people who suffer from illness or disease travel to famous springs around the world to drink and bathe in healing waters they believe have special powers. Studies of these waters have revealed a specific common trait: high hydrogen content, possibly the key to the healing powers. A Nobel Prize-winning biochemist once commented that hydrogen, not oxygen, is the fuel of life. In Japan, these intriguing healing water studies fueled a research boom focusing on hydrogen. Today, the country leads the world in the studies on hydrogenated water.
More than 700 scientific papers confirm that hydrogen-rich water showed remarkable health benefits over 200 kinds of human diseases. H2 is the smallest antioxidant known to science. It is 88 times smaller than vitamin C. H2 is the only antioxidant that can penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and it can selectively neutralize the toxic ROS and turn them into harmless water. High levels of oxidative stress creates toxic ROS that damages our cells and DNA, causing 90% of diseases. Drinking H2-rich water can significantly reduce oxidative stress, repair cell genes, eliminate inflammation, prevent cell mutation, anti-cancer, anti-aging, and contribute tremendous health and beauty benefits.
Despite continual improvements in medicine, one of the most fascinating aspects of healing remains something we've been aware of for centuries: the placebo effect. Today I want to talk about what we know currently about the placebo effect and examine what we can do to more effectively leverage it to our advantage. The placebo effect demonstrates the power, the sometimes surprising power, of our mindsets, our thoughts, our beliefs, our expectations to produce meaningful changes in the body. Simply taking a sugar pill under the impression that it's a real medication can not just improve your pain and your anxiety and depression, but also reduce your blood pressure, calm your asthma, boost your immune system. Placebo surgeries. Yes, you heard me right. Surgeries in which the doctor puts patients under anesthesia, cuts them open, and sutures them back up again without doing anything, can get people back on their feet again. And placebos don't always take the form of sugar pills or faux procedures, and their effects aren't always so rosy. Placebo poison ivy can cause real rashes. The mere fear of side effects makes those effects more likely. And as the major threats to our health have changed from infectious diseases to chronic disease, and we increasingly look to changes in our behaviors like exercise, diet, and stress for solutions, what we're finding is that the benefits of those behaviors too depend on our beliefs.
Ako po si Alicia Joaquin. Meron po akong gustong ipaliwanag sa inyo tungkol sa isang bagay na nakatulong ng malaki sa aking palagay sa mabilis kong paggaling sa aking karamdaman. Noong 2008, ako'y na-opera, nagkaroon ako ng, dumaan ako sa mastectomy. Nagkaroon kasi ako ng breast cancer. Napakahirap ng pinagdaanan ko dahil napakahirap na. Dahil dinanas ko yung chemotherapy. Sa loob ng panahon yun, akala ko hindi ko kakayanin. Nagkaroon ako ng 6 na sessions at tuloy-tuloy na pag-inom ng gamot, maintenance. Ngayon, nung matapos yung 6 na sessions na yon, siguro mga more than 4 months yon, Pagkatapos noon, may isa akong kakilala na sinabihan ako na siya rin nakagamit ng ganitong machine na nagpo-produce ng alkaline water. Eh, di sinubukan ko. Dahil maganda ang kanyang mga paliwanag. Dahil nagkaroon daw ng siya rin ng sakit, eh ito ay malaki na itulong sa kanya. Ay di sinubukan ko. Ay di sinubukan ko naman na ang turo sa akin, ito ay paandarin ko na every 15 minutes. Then, pagpapahin ko ng 15 minutes. Sinunod ko lahat ng sinabi niya sa akin. At siya na naging inumin ko araw-araw. Kasi nagpo-produce daw ito ng alkaline water. Ang ganda ng paliwanag niya. Hindi ko maalam lahat yung mga termino eh. Kaya, sa batay na lang sa naging karanasan ko, doon ko na lang ibinabatay yung aking pagpapaliwanag kung paano. Parang napakalaki ang naitulong sa akin. Kasi mula nang umiinom na ako ng tubig na nagdaan dito, ay ang ganda na ng pakiramdam ko. Naging masigla na ako. At saka, pati yung iba kong nararamdaman, ay naging magaan na pati ang paggilos ko. Nakapaghanap buhay nga tuloy-uli ako eh. Nagpahinga ako ilang taon. Pero, nang maisip ko na magtinda uli, sinubukan ko magtinda. Pero tuloy-tuloy ang inom ko nito. At awa ng Diyos, mahigit ng 10 taon akong cancer-free. Yan ang findings na ginawa sa akin ng doktor ko. Kaya sobra ko sa salamat ko sa taong nagrekomenda sa akin ito. Kasi ang laki na naitulong to. Ito na rin ang ginagamit ng aking pamilya. Lahat sila ito na ang iniinom na tubig araw-araw.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong panunood. Sana po ay makatulong sa inyo ang aking presentation. Nakakalungkot lamang po sa taong may cancer lalo na po dito sa Pilipinas. Na puro chemotherapy lang ang ina-apply sa taong may cancer. Ayon po sa data ay 47% lamang sa loob ng 5 taon ang buhay ng chemotherapy patient. At 39% naman ang buhay sa loob ng 5 taon na walang chemotherapy. Napakaliit po ng chance para mabuhay sa loob lamang ng 5 taon. At ito pong chemotherapy ay hindi na po ginagamit ng malalaking ospital sa ibang bansa dahil po sa bagong innovation of cancer treatment na napakataas ng recovery rate na konti lang ang side effect. Ito po ay ang sariling immune system ng cancer patient. At ito po ay immo-modified sa laboratory para turuan ito para patayin ang cancer cells. Napakaganda po ng treatment na ito at very scientific ang formula. Subalit ito po ay para sa mga multi-millionaire lamang dahil sa nakakagulat na presyo nito na 24 million pesos. Pero wag po kayong mag-alala dahil meron na po tayong tamang technology na hydrogen pro-life solution na innovation of science in medicine na mas mabilis magpagaling na walang side effect at papalakasin natin ang immune system ninyo at tuturuan natin ito upang pagalingin ang inyong cancer at mga chronic diseases. Kaya't inaanyayahan ko po kayo. Libre po ang consultation na nasa website po. Ang mga detalye